When selecting participants, you have to find a sample because the population is really too large for you to get everyone a part of. So you need a sample. You need a sample that is going to be a small group that's selected from the larger population, but that represents the population really well. If I wanted to know if who the best professor at Grayson College is, and I go and I interview my parents and my husband and my sibling, my brother and his wife, am I going to get an accurate exam representation of who the best professor is? No, because A, they've never had me. B, they're probably going to say that I'm the best, and they've not had other people. So it's important that I actually interview or question or survey, whatever you want to call it, people who are students of Grayson. I need international students. I need non-traditional students. I need traditional students. I need athletes. I mean, there's so many different people that represent Grayson College, dual credit, all of that. I need to get a representation of it. Okay, so I need a random sample, so that means everybody has equal opportunity to participate, but I don't need to just go to my class and ask them, hey, I'm going to do this survey over you. I need a better representation of that. So random assignment would be once people have been randomly had random sample, got a good summary of opportunity to be able to be a part of my study, then they have random assignment. That means they get equal opportunity to be placed randomly in the control group or the experimental group. Now, if it's a quasi-experiment, that means that you didn't really get to choose what group you went into. You were already predetermined. For example, my dissertation looked at the views of military members and veterans and civilians. So when people signed up to participate in my study, they didn't get to decide if they were a military member or a civilian. They were already predetermined. So they didn't have random assignment because it was a quasi-experiment. In a full experiment, it's random assignment. So everybody who signs up gets placed into one group or the other based on a random assignment. So there is manipulating variables, which we've kind of talked about this before. They're randomly assigned, but again, if you're doing sex, whether it's male or female, then you don't get to randomly decide if a male is a female or vice versa. They're already predetermined, so that would be a quasi-experiment. Now, as we've talked about this, you've probably heard me mention several things about ethics and how we used to not have ethics and now we do, and it's very important to have ethics. We harmed a lot of people in the past because we didn't have ethics. And so now we have a lot of ethics, like a committee that holds us accountable so that we don't harm people. So I urge you to go watch this video. This is a real life example of an unethical psychological experiment. These triplets were separated at birth by an adoption agency as a part of a psychological study. A psychologist didn't believe that children could develop their own personality if they were twins or triplets, and so they separated them and then studied them. Super unethical. We can't do that kind of stuff. But I recommend you watching this trailer and for sure watching the movie if you have an opportunity to. I know that it's on Amazon Prime. Now we have a code of ethics, 5 general principles and 10 specific ethical standards that the American Psychological Association puts together and monitors. Anytime we're going to do a study that involves people, we have to make sure it meets the code of ethics. And so we have the Institutional Review Board that we submit it to, and they either approve or deny our research. And if it's approved, that means it's not going to harm people. And if it's denied, you have to find a different way to go about it, but that's not going to harm anybody or not do the study. So our general principles are benefits, that it needs to be good and not harm that comes out of your study. I can't just decide that today. I want to know if I fail you, if you're going to fight for your grade. That's not ethical. Okay, I cannot just fail you just because I want to know. And also, you have to be able to trust me. We have to have a relationship. I can't sign you up for a study that you don't know you're a part of. So we have to be honest. We have to be justice, we have to be fair and just, and we have to have respect for others and have dignity for them. We have to keep accurate records and under control. For my dissertation, I have to keep it under lock and key for 10 years until somebody wants that research. After 10 years, I don't have to keep it anymore. But if someone asks me if someone else participated in the study, I can't tell them. It's anonymous, and I have to protect that. Even if your mom comes and says, I need to know if my child participated in this study, I can't tell them because of confidentiality. Psychologists have to be educated and they have to have proper training before they can participate in things. To do my dissertation, I had to undergo several trainings to make sure I knew how to perform ethical studies. And so that's important, and it's healthy for us to practice these, to be reminded of it, so that we're taking care of our clients and the public. We have certain protocols that we have to do for research and publication. Our assessments have to be based on evaluations that are accurate, again, not causing harm. And therapy, psychologists must inform clients about the nature, the anticipated course, and other aspects of therapy. So in order for us to have ethical research, we have to have informed consent. Our deception has to be minimal, and we have to debrief. Okay? I don't know if you're familiar with the Stanford Prison Experiment, but I highly encourage you to watch these 3 different videos over Zimbardo, and probably the most unethical, failed, but really interesting study that's ever occurred. Zimbardo, his study caused us to have better standards, to not harm people. So we have to be ethical in what we're doing so that we're not causing harm to people and to animals that are involved in our research. Again, we talked about the IRB. They approve it, and then we have to have an informed consent. I can't sign you up for a experiment if you have not been decided to be a part of it. I can't just decide, yes, you're going to be a part of it, and you have no idea. So you have to have informed consent. You have a form that you actually have to sign that says, yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. And if you don't agree, then the study stops immediately. If you do agree, then we continue. There's protection of participants. I have to provide more benefit than harm to do a study. So I have to protect you. At any point, if you decide you want to withdraw, you can. Before, in Milgram's obedience study, you had to ask 4 times before you could withdraw. And it was like, nobody really got to the 4th time. They kept telling them that the study was dependent on you. You have to continue. You have no other option. And that is unethical. And my deception, I have to deceive you a little bit in my study so that you don't know what I'm looking for. But my deception cannot be too great, and the benefit has to outweigh the harm. And at the end, I have to fully debrief you and tell you everything that I'm going to do. And that may be debriefed within a meeting that we have, or it may be the article that I've published that you can go and read, or you could always contact the experimenter to find out. And again, we have to keep things confidential. Then we interpret our findings through statistical analysis. This is very important for you to be really good at doing and understanding. And if not, typically you'll have somebody on your committee that will help you, because you cannot put wrong results out. That's what happened with the guy who did the immunizations. He didn't understand his statistics. He didn't run them properly, and then led a big panic over immunizations. And whether you agree with them or not, I'm not telling you that. I'm just saying he caused a lot of harm and turmoil to people he shouldn't have. There was another study that was done where they found that birth control wasn't very good, and it was actually causing more harm than it was controlling birth. People do not get pregnant. And so this happened in the UK, and so people stopped taking birth control. And then the number of unwanted pregnancies increased, and the number of unwanted or abortions increased. And then we found out that the statistics were calculated incorrectly. And we had all of this trauma that had happened for no necessary reason because somebody misinterpreted their statistics. So you have to be careful with it. So you're going to usually decide if it's significant or non-significant, and to decide that there's occurred by a 5% or less chance, and that's what makes the results significant. meaning 95% of the time it will occur, 5% of the time or less it will not occur. We can't predict with absolute certainty that it will or will not occur because we're working with people. People have the opportunity to make a change or decision, and it's not like gravity. Gravity is always going to happen when you're on Earth, so we can't be 100% sure, but we can be about 95% or less. So we report our findings through peer-reviewed journals, which simply means we write it all out. People who are experts in the same field are going to read it, and they're going to say, yes, this is good, no, this isn't, and then that's when they get published. Replication means we'll just run it again with the same variables and statistics or statistical analysis so that we can make sure that it happens again and again and again. So it is important to look at that and to see what is going on. You need things to be reliable and you need them to be valid. Reliable means that it's consistent and it reproduces the same results time and time again. The valid means that it was reliable and it gives you the truth. Okay, reliability can be wrong. If my oven is set at 350 but it records 325 every day, it's reliable. But it's not valid because every day it's still 325, but it's supposed to measure 350. So for it to be valid, it would have to measure 350 and be reliable. So reliable has to happen to be valid, but valid does not have to happen to be reliable. And this is all other information. I encourage you to look at this Tuskegee syphilis study. It was horrible what happened to these men. They were African-American men who had syphilis and were in a study that was supposed to be helping them to overcome the disease, but they were really just studying the progression of it. And after about 14 years of the study, they found a cure, but decided let's not give it to the participants to see how they end with syphilis, how they die, which was horrible. It spread the disease to tons of people. People were infected and harmed. And they believed that they were getting a study, that they were going to get a cure, and they didn't. And so that was some deception. That was very unethical. And still people are suffering from this study. So it's really important for us to be careful with how we treat people because we're all people and we all deserve to be treated with respect and not to be deceived any more than necessary. And then the same thing is with animals. We have to be careful with animals. If the benefit's going to outweigh the harm, then we can do it. For instance, the movie Contagion, when they're injecting monkeys with the disease that's killing all of humanity, and these monkeys are dying one after the other, but we're trying to find a cure to save the human race. Well, then that's okay because all of the human race is dying. And if we can save the people and lose a few monkeys, it's okay. However, we still have to be ethical with this.